first got my PSVR2 and put it on, I was blown away by the super sharp image quality.
Holy sh! Holy sh!
Detailed textures and overall clarity of every game. It's a huge jump from last-gen headsets, but I was surprised to see that not everyone was having the same experience that I was. But the image is extremely clear, so working with the community, we came up with a troubleshooting guide to see if there's anything wrong and help you get up to speed. Now keep in mind a couple of things. First, PSVR2 uses OLED panels, which offer some great color and vibrancy over LCD, but it does result in a bit of murra, which is the graininess you might see when looking out into the distance or if there's a fog effect on screen. It's fairly minimal here though, and it's possible that we'll see solutions for it on the software side later in the PSVR2 generation. The other thing to keep in mind is that we're operating under the assumption that there's nothing wrong with your headset. So if you follow all of these steps and you're still having major issues with image quality, then you might actually have a defective headset or an issue that can't be solved without Sony's help. But for now, let's move forward and hope that's not the case. Let's get the obvious stuff out of the way. At this point, you've used your PSVR2 headset, so it's possible that your lenses are dirty. So step one is cleaning your lenses with a new, clean, dry microfiber cloth. Using liquids of any kind could damage the lenses or, even worse, or potentially even disable the eye tracking permanently. So please, don't do that. The lenses get dirty easily, especially if you're sweating in the headset or if you have long eyelashes like I do that occasionally brush against the lenses. Despite looking like the PSVR1, it actually took me a minute to figure out how to wear the PSVR2 properly and find just the right placement on my head. Initially, I found the lenses were resting on my nose and it was really uncomfortable. But if you find yourself in this situation, just know that you're doing something wrong. The lenses really shouldn't be touching your face at all. So take some time and make sure the headset feels comfortable before doing anything else, and use the dial on the back of the head strap to tighten it as necessary. Once you get the headset positioned and have your eyes perfectly lined up with the lenses for the best possible clarity, well, that's what we call the sweet spot. And maybe it's just me, but it seems like the sweet spot on PSVR2 is slightly smaller than it was on PSVR1. But in all fairness, it took me a little while to get used to using PSVR1 as well, so it could be the same situation here. For me, the image only goes from great to practically perfect once I push that little button in and slide the visor as close to my face as it can go, but I'm sure that'll vary from person to person. Now, if you rush through the setup process like I did, it's really possible that you might have missed something important. So if you're having problems, you should definitely go back to the setup and go through the steps one by one again. You can get back there easily by double tapping the PlayStation button on your Sense controller. Scroll down to eye tracking to get started on the calibration process. Making sure the eye tracking is working properly is one of the most important things you can do here. The reason eye tracking is so important this gen is because a lot of PSVR2 games use foveated rendering that will only render the spot that you're looking at the highest possible resolution, while everything else in your peripheral vision will be blurrier, which frees up a ton of processing power. But if your eye tracking isn't working properly, your PSVR2 won't know where you're looking and you'll end up looking at something blurry. After you complete the eye tracking setup, it's time to adjust your focus. So double click that PlayStation button again, but this time select Adjust Visibility. Here you'll adjust the IPD with the dial on top of your headset. IPD stands for interpupillary distance, or quite literally, how far apart your eyes are on your head. Unlike PSVR1, we now have a dial on top of the visor that can adjust this manually and will allow you to customize the lenses to your face, and as a result, you'll end up with a much sharper image than was ever possible before. Okay, so remember at the beginning of the video when I said that Sony chose OLED panels for PSVR2 because of the brightness and vibrancy? Well, as it turns out, the brightness itself could be making the blur a little bit more noticeable for some people. So if you've gotten to this point in the video and nothing else so far has improved your situation, you might want to consider turning the brightness down a bit. And with these lenses so close to your eyes, it might be something you want to consider anyway, if nothing else, to reduce eye strain. Okay, so finally, let's do a few tests in order to find out if you've got the best possible image that PSVR2 can display. A great start is by looking at any text in-game or in cinema mode. So let's make the cinema mode as large as possible by going back into that settings menu. Do the letters look clear? If they're blurry or you're having a hard time focusing on them, it's likely to do with the IPD settings. And if it's something that looks like this, well, that's called chromatic aberration, and that's more in relation to how the headset is sitting on your head. So adjust the strap up or down until they come into focus. You can also do some tests in-game, but keep in mind that very often things in the distance are blurred for a depth of field effect or simply have a lower resolution or lower LOD. So the best tests are looking at things close up to see if they look crystal clear. If you're in Horizon, look at your hand. Or in Gran Turismo 7, look at the steering wheel or anything on the dashboard. These things should all appear extremely sharp. Listen, I've been playing PSVR games for over 6 years, and it still took me some time to get used to throwing the PSVR2 headset on, getting it comfortable, and finding that sweet spot. It'll get faster and faster over time, but in the meantime, just try to be patient. The image quality here is great. While yes, you could pick apart things that aren't quite perfect with it, it's by far the best affordable headset out there. So before you get mad and leave angry comments all over YouTube, take some time and make sure you're doing everything right.